guys, good to see you outside of a computer. We've spent a lot of time living in screens with each other, but here we are in the flesh. Alex Popov, our lead VFX artist on site. Edy Enriquez, who was our VFX producer throughout the show, both before we shot, during shooting, and all the way through our entire post-production. So guys, thanks for cutting out some of your day to chat with us about the experience.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So when a production comes to you and they have something specific, let's say in their mind, how does it translate to how you're able to put something in front of them that you know is sort of telepathically what they're looking for?
Well, that's always a challenge, Jason, but specifically for sight, when you sent us these samples, we looked at them and we thought they were actually pretty good. So what Alex and I did was we not only used our internal team, we brought an outside team as well and just had them go at it. We gave them a couple of parameters of like, we're trying to do a parallel universe to meet another, and everybody just we just let them go at it.
Yeah.
Gave them freedom.
And what Alex did was, like, from what they gave to us, he chose little bits and pieces from everyone,
yeah,
and kind of created something else and presented to you to see what you liked and what didn't like.
Yeah, and it's very important to kind of, whenever we approach a new project that requires creative approach, mission number one, to get into director's head. Like really fully try to the best our extent and abilities to understand your vision.
To use your metaphor of vision, it's really like an eye exam in a way, because it's kind of like you keep putting the different lenses to get things in focus, because it was something like this, we didn't know exactly where we wanted to land. We just knew pretty clearly what we didn't want, but we had to find that specific, veining in the marble to get the exact thing that we knew was right.
You told us what you had in mind as much as you could, and you kind of gave us room to play. And that's what we, cater to our team, and we're like, okay guys, this is what we're going for, but feel free to explore and experiment. And as a result of that kind of approach, we got a couple little things, like, small little parts of one test was interesting enough to carry on and merge it with another test, and then it was a baby.
Yeah. The interesting thing too about the whole sort of gestation, to use the baby metaphor of the project, was we had so much known by speaking with you guys of how we were going to shoot this to be able to do it in post. The green screen recipe, where basically actors had to be in the exact same position to almost trace their faces. We did all of those 3D scans of the actors' faces to be able to have some more flexibility in post too. I'm wondering, in productions that you guys that's coming through Apparatus now, do you see that there's as much pre-planning in VFX, or directors and productions coming to you after they've already shot and they're like, put a spaceship here, put an explosion here, make this go away? I mean, I know the technology is such that you can do some measure of that now, but, with us, we wanted to be as precise as possible going in, so we knew what we were going to get coming out.
True. And as you said, like, planning is the key. The more things you discuss with the VFX team, get familiar with the needs, how to achieve the effect to the best ability of bringing the production and post-production together, that's definitely key. Planning is a key. And also, as a director, as a creative, for you to understand the process that we're going to go through. That's extremely important.
What is that?
Especially those larger transitions. I thought it would be interesting for us to actually pull one sequence that in a way is sort of a bit of an encyclopedia of what you guys did, because we will have in this sequence a lot of the 3D set replacement work that you guys did. There's green screen pulls in this, and there's also the very first big hallucination sequences in the movie. So we've got queued up basically the before, that's still just raw of what we shot with the green screens and the tunnel, and then we have the final, what we ultimately did in the movie.
Final product.
So we can just watch it down.
Awesome.
Kind of park as we go to kind of analyze some of the work you guys did. So this is obviously the raw original, as you'll see as soon as they turn the corner here. But one of the things that was really vital for you guys to do for us was to help make this tunnel, this key set, look bigger and longer and more formidable than our actual production design allowed for. So as soon as they turn this corner, really did an amazing job, I think. So a couple of things here, as you can see, there's only really, maybe 20 yards of length, I think about 60 feet all told of what we built for this tunnel. So the ambition was to make it look like it kept going and to make this whole disc look like it was essentially levitating. And can you speak a bit about sort of what that process entails? Did we have to do any kind of rotoing as he's moving into it? And the set extension plan?
Oh yeah, absolutely. In fact, like this shotgun presents a set of challenges. It's a long take and it's a traveling take. So not only we have the camera traveling through the space, through the set, also the characters traveling through the set. So number one in approaching a shot like that is obviously tracking. You have to get a solid tracking data in order to include the elements afterwards. So the couple challenges, you see the character passing across the lens. It throws off some tracking capabilities, and also creating a digital extension for this. Yes, the tunnel and a God's eye, obviously in the background. So the next task would be rotoscoping the character. Partially, it's a combination again between roto and chroma key in here. And the reason why, again, there's a lot of lighting situation changes that's happening in here. So therefore, rotoscoping is really a big part of this process. And that's how you really get like a really clean edge and stuff. Like for example, around those circular openings, right there, those we had to create masks and just rotoscope them, track them in place, and they serve greatly.
This opens another real quick question about, advising, looking at something like this on upcoming productions you guys work on, and for our own edification too. When you need to strike a balance between production design and the intended VFX, like for instance, we have all this great stray blown out wiring that's in the green screen. We tried to build the set to look as much like what it was intended to be, this blown up aged physics experiment.
Yeah.
Would you recommend in circumstances that maybe some of this kind of stuff that's practical not be in the shot, or does it help you guys to build around the practical elements like the hanging wires and things like that?
So absolutely it helps. It absolutely helps. There's a couple things that occur in lens that a lot of people don't think about. There's a couple of things. There's a natural motion blur, obviously. So that dilutes a little bit the edge, the sharpness of the edge. Then focal length, especially like if your subject is in focus, so the background will be out of focus, so that's a little bit tricky. And in this case, you had a lot of translucent pieces as part of the God's Eye piece.
You mean as far as all these little bits and pieces you can see through?
Yes.
Yeah.
So a lot of those little nuance details that had to be recreated digitally. Therefore, we had really good reference photography, 3D scans. We had our 3D team recreate the entire eye in 3D. Amazing. We used Maya software and we used Blender software to recreate that. And it gave us a lot greater control over the lighting and over like literally preserving that details that you see in the shot.
Well, let me add to that a little bit, because also we don't want visual effects to kind of overpower what you do on set, because you have a spectacular production designer here. I mean, that by itself looks good. So all we really needed to do was augment it and complement it. But Alex and I were like really paranoid, so we actually recreated the God's Eye in 3D.
Wow.
Just in case we ever needed it.
Yeah.
So
And I think it multiple times you did use the 3D.
and we did, yeah. So there were parts where it was partial 3D, partial on there. So, but kudos to your production designer, because it was really good as it was, and we just came in and made it a lot more grandiose.
Do you guys find that you do have conversations with production designers beforehand?
Yeah.
That's probably very.
Especially when it comes to like construction of the set, and especially some key like centerpieces like that, absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's usually dictated budgetarily. How can we help production design save in this particular,
Right.
you know,
Sort of the handoff.
yeah, just maybe build a piece of a set and we'll add to it.
Right.
That happens often.
Cool. All right, let's keep going. Flashlight, we did practical. that wasn't you guys. So we'll certainly see more clearly when we see the after of how much you guys also augmented the disc itself. So this is just our editor sort of dummying up an idea for how this transition could work. So now we'll look into the finished version. The thing that was so complex for us to figure out was how can we turn with Neil, the lead character, and change the environment more or less through his POV. So even though we're sort of at his shoulder in an over-the-shoulder shot, as he turns, we want to see the world he's seeing change from this, you know, from the set we're in into this other environment. You guys did a really spectacular job with that. So now here's the version that is indeed in the film. And we'll see your incredible sleight of hand here. As I recall, you actually added some exhale from his vape pen that we didn't have, add to. So kudos to the smoke and particle work too, which we see right there. So yes, this comes into focus. Now you see that whole great extension of that tunnel that you guys built. Because it is a Steadicam shot and it's moving at every axis, it's moving in and it's moving side to side. The tracking of parallax, right, to get, because you're dealing with a very specific perspective. It's not like it's a forest or a landscape shot, which probably would be a little more forgiving. You're dealing with a very traditional, you know, central vanishing point type of perspective. So how do you, with your various tracking plugins or nudging things, you know, manually to eye, how do you achieve that parallax consistency?
So there's a couple of tricks that we're using. Obviously, when we 3D track the camera, it gives us the Z space information, and we place
What's the Z? What's
so
the
it's
Z
everything that extends away from the camera.
I see.
So into the depth.
Okay.
It's a depth, basically.
Okay.
Depth information. So we, for example, if we put virtual dots on the floor and we'll spread it all the way to the end of the tunnel, when the camera moves, you'll see that the aligning of the dots is parallaxing, it's moving around. So we were able to extract that information from the camera move that's been tracked.
Wow.
So like this right there, like faraway shots, so that's a combination between CG model and a practical set.
I was going to ask you, yeah, because that looks so, the gearing, almost clockwork gearing of the frame looks, to my eye, identical to what production design built, but I do distinctly recall that a lot of that is the 3D model.
Yeah,
isn't
yeah.
it?
And the reason why it's again like it's the how lens perceive the visual information
Right.
in the shot, and that stuff just to get the clean edges and the complexity of all the details were almost impossible to retain from the original shot. So the foreground elements, the darker, the outlining, the circular outlines, those are real,
Yeah.
obviously, and it's the extension, the depth of details. That's what
Wow.
we end up merging with some digital elements.
What is that?
It's gotta be magnetic.
So that's worth taking a pause on too. We're seeing a lot of your work here. I don't even know where to begin. Certainly, the eye itself, the lit part, is a bit of an admixture of the production's actual lit eye, but predominantly all of those accents and overlays of motion effects that you guys have added insofar as this sort of circulating, almost hurricane eye that's in the pupil, and these little bits of light that are moving around. And I recall there's also, and you'll see it very clearly when we start the motion again, there's almost like a kind of a nebulous cloud that's floating
Yes.
around in there too.
Yeah, there was multiple simulation on the kind of like overlapping each other. Once you start mentioning it was one of your main directions for the look of the center of the eye, that it's a God's eye. We're looking in kind of like a hurricane spiral, and that actually gave us an idea to simulate some sort of like a hurricane spiral kind of patterns.
Yeah.
And we gave it a little bit like more light and glow in post production, but that was kind of the base for it. And then out of that, expanding like a nebular sort of like a particle sort of that were expanding out of the center of the eye.
Yeah.
That was applied to it. It was like a 3D mapped on the surface. So
Wow.
you see the particles sort of kind of like they bend.
Almost a curvature. They
Mhm.
bend
Give it a little
yeah.
bit of a curvature.
Yeah, and as far as the frame and all that depth and complexity of the different layers of paneling of the gears, are we looking at a mix of the actual set piece and 3D, or are we
Yes.
looking at so there's
It was a mix. It was definitely a
combination.
mix. Yeah, it's we might have added a little bit more like wiring inside than the lighting, because like the approach was that the center of the eye emits the light also on the sides and in the back
Right.
a little bit, so all those back elements and the lighting kind of like slowly pulsing, so those elements had to be recreated.
Yeah.
The framing of the eye, the foreground elements, the center, it's the set pieces, obviously. They say the best visual effects are the ones that are just augmenting the practical effects, and you can't tell.
Yeah, I mean, literally,
What's what?
I until asking you guys, I really wouldn't know where reality ends and the magic begins. It's very, very cool.
Flashlight is a battery. Try phone light.
It's dead. Totally dead. Come on, Mr. 1,000 watts, check this out. We don't know what that is. Isn't that why we're here?
So as it gets closer, now we start seeing a lot of that detail we were just talking about in terms of the behavior inside the eye. And then, of course, this beginning of his hallucination, where right there on that turn is really the most remarkable aspect of what I think you guys achieved there. So as he turns, it was just a little piece of the physical tunnel set. And then, as I recall, we had some green screens after a little bit of actual practical. So we were kind of bleeding into where you could start to replace with the beginnings of this other world, which would be this prison set. Also a corridor, but the axis that we're on to shift into this was very difficult.
It was tricky. It was a tricky shot. for a couple of reasons. I believe on the turn we also end up kind of splicing two pieces of performance of the actor.
Yeah.
But also the aligning sort of a geometry of the space. That was kind of a kind of cool little experiments, but that was a choice for sure. Extending digital extension.
But we were also hoping that for this, the environmental changes and the facial morph, that one size fits all, but it never did. Like every time, every time, like
You couldn't templatize it.
Yeah, we couldn't.
Just like-
So every transition was, custom made by the artist.
Something that we hit upon in conversation and just sort of as we were working through it and trying to find the look, were the idea of those sort of lines and the lines being almost like a fabric of the underlying universe being visible and how it was exactly, like sort of connecting up to reconstitute matter in a different space, and we use that throughout. And there's another great one we could take a quick look at that's really emblematic of that.
Hey, Wiley.
Hey.
So here's the other scene that I thought was really valuable for us to take a look at, because it's one of the few that actually does both of our key effects. It changes faces and it changes environments. And this is one I remember very clearly from set, because I believe I was on the phone, on a Zoom over my iPad with you both, because we were in like a panic, because we were getting ready to shoot this one, and somehow we just had a kerfluffle of remembering exactly how we were going to do it. And it was the first time that we were going to do both. We were going to change faces and change spaces.
Right.
Yeah, and it was early morning, and we were shooting on the East Coast, so God knows what the hell time it was out here. But you guys chimed in with us and very calmly gave us the guidance that we needed, and I think it turned out marvelously. But this is a cool one to dissect too, because we've got every cylinder firing a bit here. And a real mix of the line elements and the facial distortions going on. So a little bit to dissect there in terms of how you let the lines sort of make one environment disappear and become the other one seamlessly in such a novel way. How did you do that?
So the cool thing about it, like the focus of the scene is the young kid. We see a lot of transformation happening with him, and the line elements. The cool thing about it, once we generated the simulations of lines doing like a weird things in general, we gave them a little bit of purpose and direction. One would be like extending, some would be spiral, rotating a little bit. So it allowed us to have some sort of a mix of that line effects for different shots. Sometimes you're looking straight at the characters, sometimes you look perspective.
And they had a lot of depth too. It doesn't just feel like you had two-dimensional, zebra on the surface of the shot.
Parallax.
It feels like there's a lot of.
There's parallax. There is a little depth of field. So some are in focus, some are further away a little bit. Defocused.
So you're doing something really interesting here, where this face is having some remnants of the bandage on the other child's face, the Wiley character. So here with Guang, the character that he's connected to across space and time, you're seeing this mixture of such interesting disparate elements. If you see here, you're still getting a trace of the family pictures that are on their little living room wall in the regular world, but you're also seeing on this side the corridor of the prison. You're seeing these cells on this side.
The main performance piece came from the Asian kid, and so what we did, we 3D mesh track his facial performance.
Oh wow!
So basically, all the deformation, all the wrinkles and stuff, they actually created a 3D mesh.
Oh, wow.
And then on top of that 3D mesh, we projected the texture from the other actor. that
Huh.
had less performance chaos to it.
Right, he's more
we-
static.
So
and
we,
sort of
yeah, so we
composed.
end up working mostly with the person that emotes the most,
Yeah.
and kind of painted the 3D projection mesh on top of them.
Wow.
But on top of that, the effect needed to evolve, constantly evolve and move, and some piece
Yeah.
of despair. And I recall you wanted the bandaged eyes to last a little bit more, then go from the left. So we needed to get really full control over that transformation. And so for that, we simulated a specific a noise pattern that we use as a mask to bring up the transparency a little bit in between.
Wow.
Yeah, so there was a lot of like a
lot of
really
little layers.
fun trickery was going through it.
Yeah, but that's a good point. It's really important for filmmakers to bring back to us proper elements that we can use, because it's, we can't just do anything. There's a method to the madness, and and especially here, I mean, the challenge was to have two dimensions, two parallel universe, kind of fighting each other.
Yeah, that's
trying
right.
to
Like a magnet, like you put it. Yeah.
yeah, take over one space, right? And we needed the proper layers for you on set to bring back to us properly before he can
Yeah.
maneuver.
Yeah. How much has changed even since, our work last year as far as AI and plugins and things that can get in there and do some of this retroactively? I mean, how sophisticated is it getting, and how much you guys leaning into it?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of people frown on the use of AI, but at Apparatus we embrace it. We use it in our pipeline. For one, as a producer, it helps me get my ideas and vision out to the artist, so it's easier for me to say, hey, here's the image that I'm talking about. And also when I'm dealing with directors and talking about their vision, that helps. But also, we try things, there's certain, I'm not gonna name any apps, but certain apps help us with Bardo, help us with tracking. And if it takes us from A to B faster, we'll take that, So, I mean,
They're tools.
exactly.
They're tools.
So we're embracing AI as much as we can. We're not afraid of it. We use it. We love it.
Yeah, I mean, I think if it can be treated as a creative partner instead of a creative usurpation,
Absolutely.
over hostile takeover,
Yeah.
then AI is a part of our world from here on out until the great Terminator Wars. But
Right.
as far as we can see, we make our peace, and it's part of things now. Is there concern in the VFX realm of where it can overstep and do things that people are doing now? I mean, how vulnerable is the VFX realm to AI?
No, we're scared. We're scared. Look, Alex will call, hey, Edy, did you see what such and such can do now? Yeah, there's always that fear of technology taking over an industry. I mean, I think, embrace it, make it part of your tool set, and see where it goes.
Yeah.
All right.
So, thank you guys again. It's been a pleasure. The whole process was, and let's on to the next one.
Awesome.
How about that?
Thank you.
Well, thank you guys.